Hello Eurovision friends, thank you so much for coming to my channel Eurovision Histories for another odds update for Eurovision 2025. The rehearsals have now started, but we don't have a lot of information on the stagings and everything else just yet, but I wanted to do another odds update before the stagings and everything we see on the stage will impact the odds, just to have a bit of a baseline. So we'll look at the winners' odds as they are at the moment, and I'll also tell you how they have changed on the last couple of months. But we'll also have a look at the semifinal odds, so who will qualify and who won't qualify, and also at the odds for the top 5 and the top 10, which can be a bit more interesting sometimes in some cases than the winners' odds. Before doing that, I wanted to give you a quick overview of some odds effects that I have seen over the years play out. If you're interested how I came to these conclusions, I did a video about a week ago on called "Do the Odds Predict the Winner?" on these odds effects, and you can check that out if you haven't seen it yet. But in general, countries that did well in Eurovision the year before are sometimes a bit overvalued in the odds because people expect them to do well once again. The same thing kind of happens for countries that have a great trajectory. I could think of the Netherlands in the last couple of years, or France, and then sometimes they are overvalued with a song that is not as good as the songs they had in the past. Then a song in a similar style to a song that did very well the year before in a genre that is very similar can also be a bit overvalued. We might see that this year. And then we have to remember that even at this point, with the rehearsals having started, it's mostly Eurovision fans that bet on these songs. So the taste of Eurovision fans will influence the odds at this moment as well. Then juries might be influenced by the odds a little bit. I explained that in the longer video I just mentioned as well. Then the UK and sometimes also Ireland can be overvalued a little bit. It's not a general rule. The opposite has happened as well. But because people in the UK and Ireland can bet on these songs while most other countries in Europe cannot actually bet, sometimes that means that the UK entry is a bit higher than it will be at the end. And then I also noticed that certain genres, maybe genres that Eurovision fans don't like as much, can also be a bit undervalued by the odds. Having all of that in mind, so let's look at the winners' odds as they are at the moment. Winners' odds means people are betting on this country that you see in the odds to win Eurovision, not anything else, not it will have a good result, it will be in the top 10, but actually that it will be the winner of Eurovision. And so maybe it's not as surprising that a lot of countries have an under 1% winning chance because people just don't believe that they will win. That doesn't necessarily mean they won't do well. And that's why later on we'll look at the top 10 and top 5 betting odds as well. I'm using the great website eurovisionworld.com again, so check it out if you haven't yet. And as you can see here, all the countries you see there have an under 1% winning chance. And for most of them, it makes sense. I don't think any of these songs really feel like Eurovision winners. I do think Montenegro might do better than people are expecting. Portugal might do a bit better, maybe Iceland as well. Serbia has it maybe in them to do well, but for that we'll look at the top 10 odds later on. As I said, I don't think any of you would say that these songs actually have a chance to win Eurovision. Same thing for Slovenia, Denmark, Poland, and Azerbaijan, all below 1% winning chance. And most of these odds have stayed pretty much the same in the last 2 weeks. Not that much has happened in the last 2 weeks. And once we know more about the rehearsals and some of the stagings, and we have some short clips as well, that might change later on. Then we also have a few countries that have a 1% winning chance, so a few more people bet on this than the others, but still not all that many. So here again, we have lots of countries that might do better in the top 10 betting odds, but here are a bit low, like Lithuania has a chance of making the top 10, I think, but I agree that it's not really a Eurovision winner. Norway, kind of the same thing, could do well with the juries, but I don't see this win Eurovision either. Spain might be a bit of a sleeping giant, so to speak. She sings this really well. It's a catchy pop song that might be nostalgic for some people. So we'll see whether this does better in the top 10 betting odds than it does here. but again, doesn't feel like a winner. Germany had been in the top 10 in the odds on the 11th of February. And then once the song was chosen, slowly went down. And since the whole vocal problems that we've seen by Tina over the last couple of weeks became more and more consistent, let's say, Germany really was only about 20th in the odds. For San Marino, this had a bit of a jump in the odds after the song was revealed to be Tutta l'Italia. It was 34th in the odds before, then jumped to 16th position, and over the last 2 weeks, it went down to 20th once again. This could be another interesting one for a top 10 result, but I don't really see this winning Eurovision either. Then Ireland, as I've said, Ireland sometimes is a bit overvalued by the odds, but I think 19th position in the winner's odds makes a lot of sense. Then there's Greece, Klavdia with Asteromata only in 18th position, but over the last couple of months, Greece has been pretty consistent in that position in the winner's odds. Probably will do much better in the top 10 odds. We'll check that out in a minute. Then Australia and Gojo is quite high for me. I don't see this winning at all. But Switzerland, and this is an interesting one, went up from 27th to 17th after the song was revealed. I think this is a potential Salvador Sobral moment where lots of people, and especially the juries, really fall in love with the song and performance. Over the last 2 weeks, it has been quite consistent in that position. Italy, another possible Salvador Sobral moment, but neither Switzerland nor Italy feel like a Eurovision winner at the moment. We shall see what changes once we know the staging for this. Then in 14th position, again, maybe, I love this song, but maybe the UK a bit overvalued here because some Brits just have a laugh and bet on their own country. I don't know whether that's something that happens, but 14th seems a bit high, even though I think this could do quite well with the juries. In 13th position, we have Ukraine. Ukraine was obviously almost first, second, I think, at the start of the season, then went down to 5th at the beginning of February, 11th in mid-February, and it has kind of stayed there over the last few weeks, has gone down a few places, but nothing major, and makes a lot of sense. A few years ago, even last year, Ukraine was always one of the contenders, but this year it just doesn't feel like that, especially the staging. The information we have received now doesn't seem as impactful as Ukrainian staging sometimes are. Then in 12th place, we have Serving for Malta. This has been quite stable over the last really months and hasn't really changed even when they had to change the main word of the chorus. But I'm interested what the odds think for this maybe coming top 10. Then Cyprus was very interesting in 20th position about 2 months ago. Then at the end of April, it was 14th and now is 11th. So it has kind of worked its way up the odds towards the top 10. They are rehearsing right this second when I record this video probably. So we shall see whether the staging is as great and impactful as they have said. But again, I don't really see this as a Eurovision winner either. Then Albania, I had this as one of my long shots in my prediction for the Eurovision winners. They have done quite interestingly a huge jump from mid-February to the end of April from 32nd, and the song was already known, from 32nd to 10th place in the odds. So people really woke up to this being a great, great entry with traditional elements, maybe the best entry with traditional elements. And so I think it makes a lot of sense that this went up the odds. And I wouldn't be surprised if it went up even more during Eurovision week. Then Estonia, this has gone down, I think, well, it's quite stable. In mid-February, it was 7th, now 9th place. For Tommy Cash, hasn't changed much about his staging, has kind of stayed the same. And so the odds have stayed the same as well. I don't think with the juries voting and accounting for 50% of the result, this has a big chance of winning, but it could do quite well in the televote. Then we have Czechia, Kiss Kiss Goodbye, and Adonis. This could be a dark horse to win the juries, and Czechia has really worked its way up. The odds was 29th at the beginning of February, then went up as high as 6th, but then in the last 2 weeks has gone down to 8th. place once again. We shall see whether the staging changes anything. Belgium is an interesting one. We'll see the qualifier odds in a minute, where Belgium is very close to non-qualifying actually, but still 7th in the winner's odds. That can happen because here people are betting on a potential winner, and in the qualifying odds they are betting on in qualifying, and maybe they are different people betting, and that's why the odds are quite different for Belgium. I think this is quite high. I don't really see this having a 3% winning chance. I don't know why it's so high. Maybe some of you know and could leave a comment explaining why this is. Belgium has been quite consistent as well, was 5th in mid-February and has gone down a little bit, but not all that much. Then Finland and Erika Wigman, again, very consistent in the odds around 6th place, but you can see there's a huge jump from 6th to 5th when it comes to the winning chance, from 3% to 6%. Still, I think this has a pathway if it really gets a huge televote and all the other televote favorites don't really work. But it makes a lot of sense that this only has a 3% winning chance. Then in 5th place, we have Israel, 6% winning chance. This has been changing places with the Netherlands over the last few days. Israel was 2nd in mid-February and has now been consistently 4th or 5th in the odds, probably because of the huge televote last year that people expect to happen again this year. We shall see whether that actually happens. Then the Netherlands, Claude and C'est la Vie. As I've said, switching positions with Israel, 6% winning chance there again. And in the top 5, we have a few of the odds effects, maybe that I talked about earlier. Israel may be doing very well in the odds because last year the song did so well, a quite similar song as well. For the Netherlands, they've been on a big, very positive trajectory if we exclude the disqualification last year, but that would have probably been a top 5 or top 10 result. So people might think the Netherlands know what they're doing, so let's bet on them. Doesn't necessarily mean that this is overvalued, but that could be one of the effects we are seeing. And I think the same thing might be happening for France. Voila, a ballad in French, did very well, came 2nd. Mon Amour last year did really, really well. So now they're sending a ballad again. So this must be working. So let's bet on France. I think the song has it in it to actually win the contest. So it makes sense that it is 3rd. But still, we might have a few of these odd effects as well. France has been very consistent in the number 3 spot. And by the way, the Netherlands, before the song was revealed, they were 12th. And then once the song was revealed, they jumped up to 4th position. So it also has to do a lot with the song. So maybe the odds effect is a bit less important here. Then in 2nd place, we have Austria. The odds effect I could see here is that a song that people think is similar, I don't really see it, won last year, Nemo and The Code. They are comparing it to JJ and Wasted Love, and maybe that's why they are betting on it. But the song is also doing incredibly well with fan votes, and everywhere you look, it is kind of battling for first position with Sweden. And so it probably makes a lot of sense that it is 2nd in the odds. We shall see what happens once the staging is revealed. This is a very interesting one, I think, where lots of people say the staging will be very impactful. And if the staging is really epic, this could go up even more. If it isn't, it could go down and maybe be overtaken by some of the ones, France, Netherlands, Israel, that are below it. Then we have Sweden, Kai Badabadabastu in 1st place. And Sweden has consistently been leading the odds, at least since mid-February. Maybe first because people thought that Måns Zelmerlöw was going to win, but then they also thought that Kai would be a possible winner. They are now at a 38% winning chance, close to Loreen levels. They have gone down a teeny tiny bit. They were at 40%, I think 2 weeks ago, but nothing major. The staging was basically the same, some upgrades from Melody Festivalen, but the odds think that this is the clear favorite to win, and the odds have not been that wrong in the last couple of years. So it is probably a good thing to be Sweden and Kai at the moment, looking at these odds. These were the winners' odds. Let's look at the semi-final odds. So which countries will actually qualify to the grand final? This might be more interesting even than the winners' odds at the moment. And here They are. The odds think that Croatia has the least chance actually of qualifying to the grand final. I think that makes sense because it is a bit of a chaotic performance. I don't really know what the audience for this would be, but it is quite late in the running order, which might help it. So I think 17% is a bit low, actually. Then Portugal, Napa, and Deslocado, I thought, and I predicted this to be a potential shock result if this does qualify, because we don't have a lot of ballots in the semi-final. The other one is Slovenia, a bit higher. So maybe 20% is a bit low for that as well. Iceland, I don't want to repeat myself, but I kind of feel like the fun of this performance could help this qualify. I think it's a bit closer to the line of qualification than the odds would suggest here. Slovenia, kind of a similar thing. Maybe I'm overvaluing most of these songs. I have to be, because at least 5 have to be out after the semi-final. But again, Slovenia, such a personal, direct performance that might also work with a lot of people. And then Azerbaijan, Run With You is another one that I thought might do quite well. Actually, Sanremo might be in a bit of trouble because I read that they haven't really changed the staging all that much, and it might just feel weird, this kind of staging. So maybe San Marino is actually one that I would see as more of a non-qualifier than maybe, for example, Azerbaijan. Belgium, as I've said, 7th in the winners' odds, but 9th in the qualification odds of semi-final 1. Quite interesting. But that's another one where it's unclear to me whether the audience will actually love this, and then maybe it will do much better than 9th, or not, and then it might be a non-qualifier. This is kind of a love or hate entry maybe as well. And the people that love it really have to pick up the phone and vote for it. And I'm not quite 100% sure yet. Then in 8th position, we have Poland. In my first prediction, I predicted this to not qualify. And I could see this be out for something like Iceland, because this is a bit chaotic as well. The staging hasn't changed all that much, it seems like, and maybe people want something more fun than chaotic in that case. But her vocals are incredible, so who knows? Maybe it will qualify in the end. Cyprus, again, interesting, 11th in the winners' odds, but only 7th in the qualification odds. But I think it will qualify. Norway, quite interesting as well. An 84% qualifying chance, so people are quite convinced of this. Here we might see a bit of an effect that Norway has qualified usually in the past, so people might be overvaluing it a little bit, but I do think that Kyle, Alessandro, and Leiter can qualify. Albania, one of the potential winners, a 91% winning chance, and then you see the other 4 are also above 90%. Sweden at 95, Netherlands as well, Estonia as well, and Ukraine as well. And we have to remember that the semifinals are televote only. So it makes a lot of sense to have these entries and songs so high up, I think. So I think a lot of this makes sense. If it were up to me, I would probably not have San Marino as a qualifier and instead have either Iceland, maybe Slovenia, maybe Portugal qualify. And I wouldn't be so sure about Poland and Belgium either at the moment, but I'll do my prediction for the semifinals in another video. Let's go to semifinal 2. In semifinal 2, the odds say that Georgia has the lowest chance of qualifying. I'm not sure that's right. I think a lot of people dislike this song for several reasons, but it might do okay. I don't think it will qualify though. Montenegro, Breaks My Heart, got the death spot in the semifinal, so it probably makes sense that this is second to last, but I hope there is some kind of miracle and Montenegro makes it to the final. Armenia, just a very shouty and crazy performance, I think. Not crazy, but over the top. Too energetic, kind of. And I think that makes sense as well. I would love Latvia to be in the final, but I understand that not that many people bet on this qualifying. Latvia doesn't have all that much televote support to begin with as well. Denmark, people are apparently expecting it not to qualify. This could be one that makes it. We will see how the staging will be, because they have said that they have made lots of changes. There will be hallucinations, surprise, on stage as well. But 48% sounds right to me, and that would continue Denmark's horrible qualification streak, non-qualification streak. Unfortunately, Ireland, did very well last year, but I kind of also see that this will struggle to qualify. And I'm very happy to see, I'll talk about Luxembourg in a second, but I'm so happy to see that Prince and Mila is finally being appreciated and people see that this has a lot of potential, because I think this will definitely qualify. And so I'm happy that the odds changed. He was, I think, 13th a few weeks ago. I think Luxembourg is also in trouble. Maybe Ireland and Luxembourg will be fighting for the youth vote or something like that. And maybe Luxembourg is out and Ireland makes it in the end. We shall see. Then all of the others, I think, kind of make sense. Australia, 75%. Lithuania, 76%. Was quite low in the winners' odds, but you can see here people are expecting this to qualify, and I do too. Greece, still, I think, a bit low. I think this should be fourth or something in the qualifying odds, but it's not too far away from Malta either, 79%. Czechia can be very happy because they have not the greatest qualification record, but I do believe that the Dongs in this song can qualify in the end. Malta as well, with all the controversy around it, will create lots of publicity. And then the top three, Finland, Austria, Israel, I think that makes a lot of sense. They are in the conversation to actually be winners of Eurovision. And so they all have 93%. But interesting to see that Austria, second in the winners' odds, is below Finland, because this is televote only. So I think that makes sense that a song like Finland would probably do better than Austria. Lots of people are betting on Austria winning the jury vote in the final. So that was semi-final 2. Let's also look at the top 10 odds. So now people are betting on a certain country to make the top 10 in Eurovision. So there are 10 spots instead of 1 when we talk about the winners' odds. And so we might see some changes here. So for example, Croatia is not last here. Georgia is, Montenegro a bit higher, but more or less the same countries are in the lower positions. You can see Portugal, Iceland, Armenia, Latvia, Ireland, Azerbaijan, also the countries that are predicted not to qualify from the semifinals. So that makes a lot of sense. But we can see Serbia being much higher than in the winners' odds here in 26th position. And I think that makes a lot of sense. As I've said, I think this is a great ballad. He is a great performer and can sell this song really well. Slovenia being high up, even though it's predicted to non-qualify by the odds. If it does, I think the juries could really go for this. And it's still only a 9% a chance of being in the top 10, but still. San Marino, 10% as well. There is a possibility, but they haven't changed the staging, so I don't really see it. Spain, this might be quite low, I think, because I can see this come top 10, lower top 10, with a clean and slick performance. So other than the national, different from the national final. But I think 14% might be a bit low. And I would definitely put Spain above Poland, actually. But there is a bit of a chance that Poland makes it to the top 10, but I don't really see it all that much. Norway could do really well with the juries, as I've said. So I think 15% is a bit low for a potential top 10. Australia makes sense. The UK, here I think it's actually a bit undervalued, because I think their voices, their vocal harmonies could mean that the juries give this an 8th position or something, and then it almost could make it to the top 10 overall. I think some televoters might like it too. This is the perfect song to close the final. What the hell just happened? It's the perfect title for that, I think. If that happens, I think it could have a pretty good chance of being top 10. Germany, I have lost all confidence in this. I don't think we have any chance at the moment. I'm interested to see the staging and hear about her vocal performance, but at the moment I think this is overvalued. I think Cyprus depends on the staging, but might be a bit overvalued. I think Lithuania, the vibe, and also the fact that so many Lithuanians live in other countries and like this song, probably can help this be in the top 10. 19% seems a bit low for that. Then we have Greece, 20%. Again, I think this should be higher. This is a beautiful ballad, very well sung, should get jury support, and I think the televoters could go for this as well. I think this should be in the top 10 of the top 10 odds, actually. Belgium, I think makes sense, 24%. Italy, 31%. This is an interesting one as well. Again, because this could really work with an intimate staging, people really feeling his personality, and it will stand out in this sea of pop songs, crazy songs, ballads. This is a very specific thing, a unique performer and song as well. So I think it makes sense that this is high. I think it is actually a bit undervalued here. Switzerland, same thing like Italy, but 35% sounds right to me. And then let's see who the odds predict to be in the top 10. Malta is just outside of it, 37%. I think Malta has a pretty good chance of making the top 10. But then let's look at the others. Czechia makes sense, I think. Albania makes a lot of sense, should be a bit higher even. Ukraine makes sense because of the televote powerhouse that they are. Estonia makes sense because this will get a good televote. Finland as well. And it's interesting that Ukraine, Estonia, and Finland have 57%, all three of them. Israel makes sense looking at last year. The Netherlands, France, Austria, Sweden, and Israel. So you see the top 5 here are actually the top 5 in the winners' odds as well. And people are very convinced that Sweden will be in the top 10, 84%, Austria 77, France 76, Netherlands 72, and Israel 72 as well. So I think if we look at the top 5 odds now, we will see a pretty similar thing. And yes, we do. Sweden, Austria, France, Israel, and Netherlands. Israel and Netherlands have switched places there, but it's more or less the same. The top 10 almost the same as well. Albania a bit lower. Yeah, this seems more like a lower top 10 song than a top 5 song. Switzerland, I'm very happy it's so high. Italy as well, Greece as well. And then the others, I think, are more or less a similar situation as in the winners odds and the top 10 odds. And last but not least, I wanted to look at something interesting because you can now also bet on the best Balkan entry. And I just find very interesting that Albania is leading that. I think for the first time I've ever looked at these odds with a 61% of being the best Balkan entry. And then when we look at the top, at the big 5 as well, Germany last makes sense, I think, and France in the lead with a 73% chance of being the most successful big 5 entry. So that was a lot of talking. Sorry about that. That was my odds update for today. I will be doing these regularly as more stagings, rehearsals happen, as the semifinals happen as well. And then I'll see you for my next video. So do subscribe if you haven't yet, if you don't want to miss any of the cool, great videos coming in the next couple of days on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. See you then, and bye-bye.